right, let's get into it. We're about to kick off a new series looking at a massive shift in tech. Seriously, this is one of those changes that's going to redefine how we use software, for good. We're leaving behind the era of telling our computers exactly what to do, step by step. Instead, we're entering a time where we just tell them what we want to achieve. Welcome to the dawn of the agentic era. So let's be really clear about this right from the start. The AI that you and I have been playing with for the last couple of years, the chatbots, the tools where you type in a prompt and get a response, that's just the appetizer, the opening act. What's coming next is the main event, and it's a whole different ballgame. We're moving way, way beyond just having a conversation with an AI. What we're witnessing here is a completely new paradigm for automation. This isn't just a little upgrade, it's a foundational change in how software gets things done. Yeah, this quote right here just nails it. The whole tech landscape is changing, and fast. Think about it. We're moving away from these single-purpose tools, make me an image, write me some text. Now we're talking about autonomous agents. These are systems that are so much more than a one-trick pony. They can manage a whole chain of actions to get something done. And this is the perfect way to think about it. AI is literally evolving from a tool you command to a teammate you delegate to. It's the difference between using a hammer, where you have to swing it every single time, and asking a colleague to build the whole fence for you. One is about direct commands, the other is about delegating an entire outcome. It's a huge mental shift. Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. What's the real difference between an AI assistant and an AI agent? Because the terms sound super similar, but trust me, they are worlds apart. Let's break this down. Your typical AI assistant, think of it like a helpful intern. You give it a direct, simple task. Find this information, write this email. It's reactive. It waits for you to tell it what to do. But an AI agent, that's a whole different beast. It's more like a seasoned project manager. You don't give it a task, you give it a goal. It's proactive. It figures out the complex, multi-step plan all on its own, and then, it just goes and does it. So what's actually under the hood of one of these things? What's the secret sauce that makes an AI agent so much more powerful than a chatbot? Okay, here's the textbook definition, but pay attention to one word because it changes everything. That word is autonomy. We're talking about an AI that can handle complex, multi-step tasks with a high degree of, you guessed it, autonomy. It doesn't just spit back an answer, it reasons, it plans, it uses tools, it takes you all the way from A to Z without you holding its hand. So these are basically its superpowers, right? First, you've got autonomous reasoning. That means it can think for itself when things aren't perfectly clear. Then there's multi-step planning. It can take a big, messy goal and break it down into a logical sequence of actions. It can also use digital tools. We're talking apps, APIs, websites, you name it, just like a person would. And finally, it pulls it all together with end-to-end execution. You give it the starting point, and it handles everything until the final result is delivered. No micromanagement needed. All right, that's enough theory. Let's make this feel real. Imagine this scenario. You've got a screen recording of someone showing how to do something, and your job is to turn that video into a written, step-by-step training guide. Now look at how an agent handles this. It doesn't just transcribe it. First, it watches and analyzes the video, figuring out every click and action, even without a voiceover. Then it extracts the core process, identifying all the key steps in order. Next, it actually writes the detailed guide for you. But it doesn't stop there. It goes back and adds precise timestamps to each step so you can reference the video. And for the grand finale, it exports the whole thing as a finished Google Doc, ready to share. See? That's not just answering a question. That is a complete, multi-step project executed from start to finish. That's true autonomy in action. So, why does any of this really matter? Because this isn't just some cool new feature. This is what we call the agentic shift. It's a fundamental change in how we're all going to work and interact with technology. Seriously, this is as big a deal as when we moved from typing commands into a black screen to clicking on icons with a mouse. It's that level of transformation. And if you remember just one thing from this, let it be this. We are moving from delegating tasks to delegating goals. I'm going to say that again, from tasks to goals. For our entire history with computers, we've told them that tiny little steps: save file, copy text, send email. Now with agents, we can give them the big picture. Plan the social media campaign for our new product launch. Figure out the best travel itinerary for my trip to Tokyo. You give it the what, and the agent figures out the how. So as this whole new world is being built, we're already seeing two big competing philosophies emerge. Think of it like a fork in the road for the future of AI. On one side, you have the integrated platforms. These are the classic walled gardens, all-in-one ecosystems where everything is tightly controlled by one company. On the other side, you've got the open protocols approach. This is more like the open internet, focused on getting agents from different companies and different platforms to all talk to each other and collaborate. It's a huge strategic battle. And this sets the stage for an absolute clash of the titans. All the big tech giants are racing to build these agent ecosystems, and the winner doesn't just win a market, they get to define the entire future of automation. So who's going to come out on top? And what will that mean for the rest of us? Well, that's exactly what we're going to start digging into in the next part of this series. You're not going to want to miss it.
Welcome back to The Explainer. The tech world is in the middle of this, well, it's a quiet war. But it's not just for your attention. This is a fight for the very future of how we interact with technology itself. We're talking about the race to build AI agents. And trust me, whoever wins this is going to define the next decade. You know, that quote from OpenAI, it absolutely nails it. We're not talking about a slightly smarter chatbot here. Think of an AI agent as a digital teammate. It's an autonomous system that doesn't just fetch information for you, it actually does stuff with it. I mean, it could plan your entire multi-city business trip, finally tame your chaotic inbox, or even, get this, debug a super complex piece of code all by itself.
So, with that kind of power on the table, is it any surprise that every single major tech player is placing massive bets to become the platform for agents? But here's what's really fascinating. They're not all playing the same game, not even close. Each one has a totally different strategy, from these closed, perfect little systems to these sprawling, wide-open webs. And that brings us to the big question, right? Who is actually building what? And what's their master plan? What are the strategic playbooks here? What's the philosophy behind their moves to win this thing? All right, let's get into it. We're going to break it down player by player. Okay, so here's our map of the battlefield. You can see right away how different the game plans are. You've got OpenAI building this polished, walled garden. Think of Apple's App Store, where everything is seamless and just works. Then on the complete opposite side, you have Google. They want to be the open hub, the central station that connects everything. Microsoft, they're all in on the enterprise, weaving AI into the tools you're already using. AWS is playing the picks and shovels game, providing the basic infrastructure for everyone else. And then you have pioneers like Anthropic writing the rulebook, and disruptors like Perplexity just carving their own path. Okay, first up, OpenAI. Their strategy? It's crystal clear, and if you've ever used an iPhone, it's going to feel super familiar. They are going all in on that Apple-like walled garden. The idea is to build this perfect, seamless, all-in-one universe for developers, where every single piece just clicks together perfectly. And the logic behind this is pretty brilliant, actually. They want to make building, deploying, and managing agents so ridiculously easy inside their ecosystem that developers won't even think about looking anywhere else. And the long-term play? Well, it's to make leaving the OpenAI ecosystem as painful as an iPhone user trying to switch to Android. You know the drill. It's that classic strategy, right? Make it super convenient today, and you create total dependency tomorrow. So how are they actually building this garden? Well, they've built a complete end-to-end system. You start with Agent Kit, which is this visual, almost drag-and-drop tool for designing how your agent thinks. Super cool. Then you use their custom GPTs to load it up with all your special proprietary knowledge. And once it's ready, you use ChatKit to just pop that finished agent right into your app or website. It's the whole shebang, from start to finish, designed to be so smooth you'll never even want to peek over the garden wall. Now let's do a complete 180. In total contrast to OpenAI's closed-off garden, you've got Google and Anthropic. They're pushing for a wide-open approach. Their goal isn't to lock you in at all. Instead, they want to become the central, can't-live-without-it hub for a whole web of agents from all kinds of different companies. Basically, they want to write the rules of the road that everyone has to follow. So you got to understand, Google is fighting this war on two fronts. It's a two-pronged attack. On one hand, they're aiming to have the smartest, most capable models out there with Gemini. But on the other hand, they're pushing really hard for these open protocols. Think of protocols as the shared languages, the Rosetta Stone that lets all agents talk to each other no matter who built them. And check this out. This is a perfect example of Gemini's raw power in action. You can literally give it a screen recording of someone doing a complicated task in some software. No voiceover, nothing. And Gemini can just watch it, understand what's happening, and spit out a perfect step-by-step instruction manual on how to do it yourself. That ability to reason with video, with visuals, that's a massive advantage for building agents that have to work in the real world. And of course, just like OpenAI, Google is handing developers a really powerful toolkit. But you can really see the difference in philosophy here. Yeah, you've got the heavy-duty, enterprise-grade stuff like Vertex AI, but then you also have things like Firebase Studio, which is for super fast, almost playful prototyping. This whole mix really shows their open strategy. They're trying to appeal to everyone, from the biggest companies to the solo weekend coder. They want the whole market, not just a slice of it.
Okay, this slide right here, this gets to the absolute core of the open web strategy. It's a battle of ideas. You've got Google's A2A protocol, which is all about letting agents talk to other agents. It's like trying to build a United Nations for AI so they can all collaborate. Then you have Anthropic's MCP, which is focused on something different, how an agent talks to tools and data securely. This isn't just a technical debate, folks. Whoever wins this protocol war could literally define the architecture of the entire agentic future.
All right, let's switch gears and talk about the cloud giants, Microsoft and AWS. Now, these two are playing a completely different game. They're not necessarily trying to build the world's best agent or the most addictive developer platform. Nope, they're using their massive existing power to become the bedrock, the foundation that everybody else has to build on.
Microsoft's playbook? It's all about the enterprise, 100%. Their entire focus is on taking the business-critical apps that, let's be honest, run the world's biggest companies and injecting agentic AI right into them. They're baking it into Azure, into Office 365, the tools that businesses are already paying for and using every single day. The goal is simple: make it a no-brainer to adopt.
And here's how they're making it so easy. With something like Azure AI Foundry, they let you bring your own model. This is huge for big companies that are terrified of being locked into one vendor. And with Copilot Studio, they're giving business users a way to build their own custom agents without having to be a coding genius. These agents just plug right into the workflows they already have. The strategy is so simple, but so smart. Meet customers exactly where they are and make it almost impossible to say no.
And now for AWS. In a move that should surprise absolutely no one, Amazon is doing what Amazon does best. They're positioning themselves to be the essential infrastructure for this new era. It's the classic picks and shovels play for the AI gold rush. They don't care who strikes gold, they want to sell the tools to all the prospectors. The goal is to provide that super scalable, super reliable foundation that everyone, from the tiniest startup to a giant like OpenAI, needs to build on.
And their strategy is just simple and brilliant. With Bedrock Agent Core, they're basically providing all the heavy-duty, high-performance plumbing that these complex agents need to run at a massive scale. And with Kilo IDE, they're building the perfect coding environment for this new AI world. So, at the end of the day, AWS is set up to make money no matter who wins the big agent war. They're selling supplies to all the armies on the battlefield.
Okay, let's step away from the giants for a second and look at a really fascinating disruptor. Someone coming at this from a totally different direction, Perplexity. Now, these guys started out as this new kind of answer engine, right? A more conversational way to search. But now they are making a really bold pivot into the world of agents.
And this is a bigger deal than it sounds. It's a huge shift. They're basically changing the very idea of what a search engine does. It's no longer just about searching for information, it's about giving a command to get something done. So your query isn't just, hey, find me the best flights. It's, hey, find and book me the best flights. See the difference? They're moving from just being an information tool to being an action tool. And with tools like their advanced Common Engine and these collaborative spaces, they're creating these little focused workshops where you can do your research, gather your info, and then smoothly switch over to having an agent take direct action for you. It's a really powerful idea that could completely change what we think is possible with a simple search box. Okay, so we've looked at all these competing titans and their wildly different strategies, right? You've got the walled garden, the open hub, the enterprise player, the infrastructure provider, and the search disruptor. So what's the big takeaway here? What's the one thing you should remember from all of this? Well, it might just be this. The future of this whole thing might not come down to who builds the single smartest agent. Instead, it might all depend on whether these different systems can actually talk to each other. Because without some kind of common language, those protocols that Google and Anthropic are pushing so hard for, we can end up with a future that's just a bunch of disconnected proprietary islands that don't work together. And that, right there, is the fundamental question that is going to define the next decade of tech. Are we headed for a future dominated by one company's beautiful, seamless, but totally closed-off garden? Or are we going to build a future on a shared language, creating a slightly messier, but way more interconnected and innovative open web for everyone?
The answer to that question is going to shape absolutely everything. Thanks for joining me.
All right, welcome back. In our last couple of explainers, we really dug into what AI agents are all about and who the big players are in this space. But now we've got to ask the next and maybe the most important question for this whole ecosystem. So think about it. You've got all these amazing agents coming out of OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, Microsoft, you name it. But right now, they're basically all stuck in their own little bubbles. They can't really talk to each other. For them to team up, to really work together, they need something fundamental, a common language, a set of rules everyone agrees on. You know, this whole situation reminds me of the early days of the internet. Before we had a standard like HTTP, it was just this chaotic mess of separate networks. You couldn't just use one browser to see everything. HTTP was the magic key. It was the universal handshake that connected everything and, well, created the web we use every single day. And guess what? AI agents are at that exact same tipping point right now. Look, without open standards, we're just creating these isolated islands of technology. If we want agents to be this incredible new workforce, they have to have protocols that let them work together, share tools, and pass tasks back and forth. This isn't just some nerdy technical thing. It's the absolute foundational plumbing for this whole new economy. Okay, so let's start with our first protocol. It's called MCP, and it's all about connecting agents to tools. The full name is the Model Context Protocol, and honestly, it's one of the key building blocks for this whole new Internet of Agents. A really good way to think about it is as the HTTP for how an agent connects to all the things it needs in the outside world. So what's the big idea behind MCP? Well, right now, if a developer wants an agent to use a new tool, they have to build a custom one-off connection. It's messy, it's time-consuming, and it's a pain. MCP wants to sweep all of that away. The goal is to have one single universal protocol. So instead of 100 different plugs, you just have one. It makes everything way simpler, way more secure, and lets you give agents new powers much, much faster. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. You can tell a protocol is a big deal by who's backing it. And for MCP, it's a real all-star team. You've got Anthropic, one of the top AI model companies. You've got Microsoft and AWS. I mean, come on, the two biggest cloud platforms in the world. And then you have Zapier, the company that is literally all about connecting different tools. Having all of them on board, that gives MCP some serious momentum. So how does it work? It's actually pretty straightforward. An agent figures out it needs a tool, maybe a booking database or something. It then uses MCP to create a secure connection to that tool's server. It does its thing, queries the database, whatever, and gets the result back. It's a clean, direct pipeline. An agent needs something, MCP connects it. Simple. But connecting to tools is only one piece of the puzzle. Right, so A2A, a protocol for agents. If MCP is all about an agent talking down to its tools, then the Agent2Agent Protocol, or A2A, is about how agents talk across to each other. This is the real magic sauce for collaboration. This is what lets a bunch of different, specialized agents come together and work like a team. A2A is really being pushed by Google, and the whole idea is to let an agent, say from company A, find and chat with an agent from company B, and then hand off a task. It's all about solving those huge, complicated problems that are just too much for any one agent to tackle alone. And just like we saw with MCP, you gotta look at who's championing A2A. We've got Google, of course, but then look at this list. SAP, Salesforce, ServiceNow. These are the giants of enterprise software. That tells you everything you need to know, right? A2A is being built to handle the really complex, messy business processes that run across a whole company. Okay, so let's see how A2A works. A travel agent needs to book a hotel, so it uses A2A to find and talk to a specialized hotel agent. It says, hey, I need a room for these dates. The hotel agent takes the job, does the booking, and reports back. You see the difference, right? This isn't just grabbing data from a database. This is a real conversation, a handoff of responsibility between two smart systems. So let's talk about the future of collaboration here. We've got MCP on one side, focused on tools, backed by Microsoft and Anthropic. And on the other, we've got A2A, focused on agents talking to agents, championed by Google. So what's the deal? Is this a war for the one true standard? Are they competitors? Well, the short answer is no, not really. They're actually designed to be two sides of the same coin. Let's break it down. MCP is tool-centric. It's all about an agent connecting down to its tools and data. A2A is agent-centric.
It's about agents connecting across to each other. One is for getting capabilities, the other is for collaboration. They're solving different problems.
So yeah, they aren't competitors. Think of them as complementary layers in this new AI communication stack. They're actually meant to work together. And honestly, for any task that's even a little bit complicated, an agent is probably going to need to use both. Let me show you what I mean with a classic example. Okay, let's put it all together. You ask your travel agent, hey, plan me a trip to Europe. First, your travel agent uses A2A to find and talk to a specialized hotel agent. That's the agent-to-agent handoff. Then the hotel agent, to do its job, uses MCP to securely connect to its own internal booking database. That's the tool. Once it's done, the info flows all the way back up and your trip is booked. See? A2A for the high-level teamwork, MCP for the low-level toolwork. It's perfect. And this is why all this stuff matters so much. This is the difference between having a bunch of cool but lonely chatbots and having a real collaborative automated workforce. These protocols are the plumbing, the infrastructure that's going to let swarms of specialized agents work together to tackle incredibly complex jobs all on their own. Which brings us to the big final question. As these agents learn to collaborate, where does the value actually go? Does it go to the tools they use, the things MCP connects them to? Or does it go to the super smart orchestrating agents that manage the whole show using A2A? The standards that become dominant here are going to define the entire architecture of the AI economy. It's a massive debate that's happening as we speak, and it's something you're definitely going to want to keep an eye on. All right, welcome back to our final deep dive into AI agent ecosystems. We've talked about the big players and the new rules of the road. Now it's time to pop the hood and see what really makes these things tick. We're going to break down the core architecture of an agent and then zoom out to see why this is such a massive strategic shift for, well, pretty much everyone. Let's jump right in. So we've all heard the hype, right? Agents that can manage your inbox, book your flights, even write and fix code. But how do they actually do any of that? It's time to get past the flashy demos and really get under the hood to see the architecture that makes this whole new wave of AI possible. And here's the most important thing to get right away. It's not magic. It's not just one giant mysterious AI brain. An effective AI agent is actually a complex system, a bit like a team, built from very distinct, very powerful components that have to work together in perfect harmony. To really wrap our heads around these components, let's use an analogy that I think makes it super clear. Imagine we're not just coding an app, we're assembling a highly specialized digital coworker, someone we're hiring to do a very specific, very complex job. Okay, so first things first, every coworker, digital or otherwise, needs a brain. This is that core large language model, your GPT-4o, your Gemini. This is the part that does all the thinking, the reasoning, the planning. It's what understands what you're asking for in the first place. But a brain by itself can't do much, right? It needs a way to interact with the world. That's where tools come in. Think of these as the hands and senses of our digital coworker. They're the APIs and functions that let it actually do things. Go out, browse the web, check a calendar, send an email. And a really good coworker needs a memory. Not just to remember what you said 5 minutes ago, but to actually learn and get better over time. This is the agent's notebook. It's how it remembers past conversations, learns your preferences, and becomes more effective the more you work with it. Next up is orchestration. This is basically the project manager, the one who directs the workflow. If a task needs multiple steps, like check my calendar, then find a flight, then book it, orchestration is the logic that figures out the right sequence and tells the right tools what to do and when. And finally, and this one is so important, every professional needs a rule book. Guardrails are that crucial safety layer. They're the company policies for your digital coworker, preventing it from going off the rails, making sure it operates safely, securely, and exactly how you intend it. So you've got the brain, the tools, the memory, the orchestration, and the guardrails. That's our digital coworker. Now let's take a look at how all these pieces actually come together and work in the real world. It all really starts with the power of that brain. As OpenAI points out here, the models themselves have gotten so good at complex reasoning and understanding different kinds of media, like text, images, and video, that they've basically unlocked this entire new category of systems we call agents. And you can see this in the wild already. Take Google's Gemini model. You can literally show it a silent screen recording of you doing something on a computer, and it can watch it, understand what's happening just from the visuals, and then generate a perfect step-by-step instruction manual with timestamps. I mean, think about that. That's a massive leap. Now, the tools. This is where things get really fun. This is how the agent connects to everything. On the one hand, tools let it perceive the world. It can search Google, query a database, or read a file from your drive. And on the other hand, they let it act on the world, send an email from your Gmail, run some code, or go update a contact in Salesforce. Now, when it comes to memory, there are really two kinds. Short-term memory is what you're probably used to. It just helps the agent remember what you said a few turns ago in a single chat. But the real game changer is long-term memory. This is what lets an agent learn about you across multiple conversations. That's how it goes from being a simple tool to a genuine, personalized assistant that remembers who you are and how you like to work. So, orchestration is the conductor of the whole orchestra. When you give a complex command like, find a time for me and Sarah to meet next week and send an invite, orchestration is the behind-the-scenes magic that breaks that down. It figures out, step 1, check my calendar. Step 2, check Sarah's calendar. Step 3, draft the email. It's the logic that makes it all happen smoothly. And last, but definitely not least, guardrails. And let me tell you, when you're building a real product, these are absolutely non-negotiable. This is the layer that stops all the bad stuff. It prevents users from jailbreaking the agent, it stops it from making things up or saying something inappropriate, and it makes sure it doesn't accidentally leak sensitive customer data. It's what makes agents safe for the real world. Okay, so we've just built our digital coworker piece by piece. Now let's zoom all the way out, because the real revolution here isn't just about having one cool digital assistant. It's about the massive strategic impact of having an entire workforce of them. And OpenAI really nails it here. This isn't just a small step forward, it's a whole new era. We're building systems that don't just follow simple commands, but can actually reason their way through messy, ambiguous problems all on their own. And this is maybe the most important takeaway of this entire series. We are moving from basic task automation to intelligent workflow automation. The old way was simple, if this, then that logic, like automatically sending a welcome email. The new way is an agent that handles the entire messy, multi-step process from start to finish. Reading an email, checking 2 different calendars, drafting an invite, and updating the CRM, all without you lifting a finger. So who's going to win this new race? Well, here's the twist. It's probably not who you think. It's not just about having the single smartest or most powerful model anymore. The game has totally changed. Nope. The winner is going to be the ecosystem that can absolutely nail this trifecta of critical components. It's about who can build the best platform for this new digital workforce to live, work, and thrive on. First up, developer experience. Look, if you want people to build amazing things on your platform, you have to make it an absolute joy for them to use. The companies that provide the best tools, the clearest documentation, and the most power to developers are the ones who will attract the best builders. Number 2, enterprise-grade trust. And this is huge. Big companies are not going to bet their business on this stuff, unless they know it's secure, reliable, and completely locked down. Robust guardrails, clear audit trails, solid security, these aren't nice-to-haves, they're absolute must-haves. And finally, number 3, you have to show them the money. You have to prove that these agent systems deliver a real, measurable return on investment. It's not about saving a few clicks anymore, it's about automating entire, complex business workflows and showing a real impact on the bottom line. So that brings us to the final, really big question. If the smartest model doesn't automatically win, then the race is officially on for the most effective, the most reliable, and the most interconnected ecosystem. The agentic era is here, and the company that builds the best home for this new digital workforce, well, they're not just building the next great product, they're building the future of software itself.
Welcome back. You know, AI is evolving at an absolutely breakneck pace. We're moving way beyond simple chatbots and into a world where AI can actually do things for us. But with all these buzzwords flying around, workflows, agents, multi-agent systems, it's honestly pretty easy to get lost. So in this explainer, we're going to cut through the noise, break down these key concepts, and show you exactly how they all fit together.
We've all had that moment of awe, right? When an AI writes a poem or generates some incredible image. But the real revolution, well, it's just getting started. We are right on the cusp of an era where AI doesn't just create stuff, it acts. It's going to be our personal assistant, our problem solver, our collaborator. And to really wrap our heads around this new world, we need a new way of thinking about it.
So, how do we make sense of this new landscape? Well, we're going to use a really powerful idea, the autonomy slider. Just picture a dial that we can turn up. On one end, you've got simple, totally controlled automation. And as we crank that dial up, we move all the way to complex, autonomous collaboration. This slider, it's the key to understanding the entire AI agent ecosystem.
So here's our game plan. We're going to start our journey at the beginning of that slider with predictable workflows. Then we'll crank up the autonomy to explore dynamic agents. And finally, we'll push that slider all the way to the max to see the incredible power of multi-agent systems. And to wrap it all up, we'll take a peek at what's coming down the road in this amazing agentic era.
All right, let's dive in at the start of our autonomy slider with the concept that's probably pretty familiar to a lot of you, workflows. Think of this as the bedrock, the reliable foundation of AI automation where it's all about control and predictability.
I want you to imagine a super high-tech assembly line. That's pretty much what an AI workflow is. It's a predefined, step-by-step process. Every single action is scripted, which guarantees you get a predictable, consistent outcome every single time. And tools like OpenAI's Agent Builder or Microsoft Power Automate, they make it really easy to create these kinds of automated, hard-coded paths.
So, when should you actually use a workflow? Well, it really comes down to this trade-off, control versus creativity. If you're dealing with tons of high-volume, repetitive tasks, or maybe you're in a highly regulated industry where every single step has to be documented and approved, workflows are your absolute best friend. They give you reliability, they're cost-effective, and you know you're getting the same result every single time.
Okay, now it's time to turn up that dial on our autonomy slider. We're leaving the predictable world of workflows behind and stepping into the dynamic realm of AI agents. And believe me, this is where things start to get really interesting.
You know, if a workflow is like following a paper map with a route drawn on it, then an AI agent is like having a GPS. It knows the destination, for sure, but it can figure out the best route all on its own, even if there's traffic. It perceives what's happening, it makes its own decisions, and it adapts its plan on the fly. That's what makes it such a powerful tool for solving complex problems.
This slide just perfectly captures the core trade-off here. It's all about predictability versus flexibility. Workflows are what you use when the path is crystal clear and you must follow it, no exceptions. Agents? They're for when the path is totally unknown and you need independent thought and real-time adaptation to get to the goal. So where do these agents really shine? Well, think about any task that requires you to think on your feet, like doing deep research on a brand new topic where you have no idea what you're going to find. Or think about a personal assistant like Perplexity. It has to understand your unique request and find the answer right then and there. That's agent territory.
But you know what? It's not always a black and white choice. In fact, some of the most powerful solutions out there are actually a hybrid of both. You could have a super reliable workflow that calls on an agent for just one tricky dynamic step. Or you could flip it, have an autonomous agent that uses a simple workflow to handle a boring, repetitive chore. It's really the best of both worlds.
All right, let's crank that autonomy slider all the way to the max. We're now entering a realm that feels a little bit like science fiction, where entire teams of specialized AI agents collaborate to achieve incredible things. Welcome to the world of multi-agent systems.
Okay, imagine you're building a new app. Instead of one single AI trying to do everything, a multi-agent system would assemble a dream team for you. You'd have a coder agent, a tester agent, a design agent, maybe even a documentation agent, all working together seamlessly to bring your vision to life. That's the power of collaboration. But wait a minute, this raises a really critical question. For any team to work, its members have to speak the same language, right? So how can an agent built by Google possibly collaborate with one from Microsoft or some tiny startup if they're all built on totally different technologies?
The answer is something called the Agent2Agent Protocol, or A2A for short. You can think of it like the universal translator for AI. It's a common language that allows agents from any company, big or small, to communicate and collaborate. So, for example, a research agent from Google could use A2A to just hand off its findings to a data visualization agent from Microsoft, and they would understand each other perfectly. This is the key that unlocks true multi-agent collaboration. And hey, don't just take my word for it. This isn't just some futuristic dream. Industry giants like Accenture are already completely on board. They see A2A as that critical bridge that's going to unite the entire AI world and unlock the true potential of collaborative AI.
So when do you need to bring in the whole team? When do you need a multi-agent system? Well, it's for the really big, gnarly, complex problems that are just way too much for a single agent to handle. Think about coordinating a global customer service team or building the next great piece of software from scratch. These are the kinds of challenges that demand a whole team of AI specialists.
So, we've journeyed all along the autonomy slider, from the simplest workflows to these complex multi-agent systems. So, what's next? Let's take a look at the exciting road ahead for this agentic era. This table gives us a fantastic glimpse into the future. Right now, today, we're laying the groundwork. We're building the standards like A2A, we're creating the no-code tools for builders, and we're putting in place the enterprise infrastructure. But all of this is in service of what's next, a world of truly proactive, fully autonomous systems. We're talking about AI that doesn't just respond, but actually anticipates our needs and uses advanced reasoning to understand not just what happened, but why it happened. It's an unbelievably exciting time to be in this space.
And make no mistake, the race to build this future is already on. The biggest names in tech, we're talking AWS, Microsoft, and Google, are all pouring massive resources into building the infrastructure for this agentic era. And while the slide doesn't show you numbers, it shows something just as important: massive strategic alignment. They are all sending the exact same message. This isn't just a trend, this is the next great technological revolution.
Which, of course, brings us to the final, and maybe the most important question of all. As we hand over more and more of our lives to these autonomous systems, how do we actually ensure that we can trust them? This isn't just a technical challenge, it's a moral one. And honestly, the answer we come up with will likely determine the future of our relationship with artificial intelligence itself.